Warning, incoming game.
Mainframe is mine.
Oh my.
We had really excellent demand for ReBoot merchandise from the various licensees.
We have about 80 licensing agreements, which include things like the video, puzzles, bed sheets,
Sticker books, chapter books, toys in cereal, snacks.
Board games, jigsaw puzzles, sleepwears, boys and girls, boxer shorts, athletic shoes, casual shoes, canvas shoes, sandals, boots, belt bags, duffel bags, handbags, roll bags, slings and totes, purses, lunchboxes, wallets, caps, hats, headbands, gloves, mittens, scarves, luggage, belts, toe socks, umbrellas, and t-shirts!
The key category for us was landing a toy company. And usually they wait just to kind of see how things are going to go. But we had a great company out of Toronto called Irwin Toys that really embraced the show and came and gave a great pitch.
The first toys were done very quickly, and I think they do it as a, well, it might work type thing. But when they came back for the second shows, we had the rapid prototyping in place.
We had all of the models that we could literally deliver to the toy company. The toy was the character. It came right from the 3D model. That was the first.
Like with Megabyte, where they had to sculpt the texture on, because a lot of that is a texture map. It's not part of the 3D data. And they did a great job of matching it.
And it's fantastic, every detail's on it. Yeah. And he's holding Fong's head. Yeah. And it looks more impressive than the actual thing.
I'm here to take over mainframe. That means a delete command delivered to your store if you fail me. Your task is to stock ReBoot in great quantities in prime positions. The demand will astound you. The result? Greater power for me and greater profits for you.
Toy makers always want another version of a toy. I mean, they're like, okay, we'll do the first wave, and then we need different. And you guys are great because you have these games and they put costumes on. There are always different versions to do. So they love that. Because if a toy manufacturer can sell you a Bob, he can sell you a different Bob and another Bob and another Bob. So they loved it, and they were just like, what are you doing next? What's happening now? You know, you're doing an outer space game, you're doing a race game. What are you doing? Is it a Wild West game? Let's do. So they were very happy with that.
Bob, use glitch.
Glitch, why? Thanks for the data.
Get him!
Way to go, sprites.
Yes!
ReBoot action figures, each sold separately.
I actually, for the actual shoot itself, I was charged with driving Chris Bruff around. So yeah, I was still a production assistant then. Really got to know Chris fairly well as I could in the few days that I drove him around, going through Vancouver traffic to the shoot, which I think was in Burnaby. And then I would sit there while they had these kids play with the toys. But then when they finished the commercial, they were doing it in post, and it was an exterior shot of the house where the kids were playing, and a GameCube comes down. There was one of those trees with purple leaves beside the house, and the GameCube is purple. So it was really hard to mask out the tree from the GameCube. So they said, hey, Corey, you got time. So I had to go through frame by frame and paint out transparency between leaves of a purple tree. It took me 2.5 weeks, every 8 hours a day, painting between leaves. I loved it because I was a production assistant, and painting leaves means I wasn't getting coffee.
Some of the plush toys were a bit wacky. Like there was a plush Frisket prototype, of which there is only one in existence. Scuzzy as well, which was really cool. But they never saw the light of day, so. I don't have many toys, but I used to have a whole bunch of them because as one of the creators, you get a copy of everything. But I just don't have room for them all. But so I kept a select few, and this one being A, rare, and B, of me. So yeah, I kept him because he's worth keeping. I don't know how many are out there in the wild. Something like 5 or 6 is all we know about.
Just imagine the chaos. Thousands and thousands of ReBoot-hungry customers with lots and lots of money to spend.
Irwin Toys would come in and see me what I was building. It's like, what do you have? What can we turn into toys? When I showed them the exoskeleton, they took it and they actually did, in the prototype, create the fingers. Like the thing actually snapped open. I think that was one of the coolest things, and that's probably what moved me from going from television to CNC work and custom fabrication. It's like, wow, my digital model got turned into a physical part.
Hey, guess what? We're gonna be in a video game from Electronic Arts. This game is gonna be alphanumeric. Super cool. I can't wait.
We did a video game with Electronic Arts, which apparently was phenomenally difficult to play. I've never tried to play it myself, but apparently it's really difficult to play without the cheat codes. We put together a team, internal team, to work with Electronic Arts on the game, and we kind of let them run with it and have fun with it.
We just basically gave them the cinematics for it. It's kind of fun just doing all these little, you know, because obviously the cinematics, just little vignettes.
I was the go-between, the liaison between the two companies, and I moved to doing all the animation for the game, and that was an opportunity for me to direct, because nobody really cared. At least at Mainframe, nobody really cared about the animation for the game, so I got to do whatever I wanted. It was kind of cool.
So some of the game endings, the losing scenarios, got pretty wacky and a bit out there.
It's not nice to fool with Mother Chaos!
Isn't there a one where they're stuffed? She has them taxidermied? It's like, guys, what were you doing? But, you know.
If you can't love them, stuff them.
I think when we first started talking about it with EA, it was going to be a Super Nintendo game, like GameCube's coming down and you'd work your way through these games. There's a bunch of different concepts. And then PlayStation hit, everybody wanted a 3D engine and a cool game. EA had a 3D engine that looked like it was good for it. They hired some writers that hadn't worked on ReBoot before. So that's why it's got kind of a different feel. And we started to just play with ideas for what it could be. And the idea quickly became, could it be a lost episode? Could it be, could we take something and do something different? Yeah, we didn't have to pay attention to broadcast standards. So I think the first thing I did was make a list of the things I was not allowed to do when we were doing the show. It's like, can we break glass? No. Can we do this? No. Can we do this? No. And put all of those in the script.
We could do undreamable things together. I will give you everything you desire.
It took years, right? It took far longer than Mainframe ever thought it would, because that's how long it takes to make a video game. They didn't understand. NEA did a lot of sports games, right? And this was kind of a different game for them as well, coming out of EAC. So it was kind of a big experiment on both sides.
Is the game canon? No, I don't think so.
Everyone heard it.
No, you see, that's the thing. It's like we let these guys have fun and do whatever they wanted, but that means it's not necessarily canon.
Have you ever wondered what it would be like to crawl inside your computer? Now you can find out. The Adventure Dome at Circus Circus has a new attraction they call ReBoot the Ride.
IMAX had theaters, and they had no content.
Content, that's right.
They had no content. So there weren't a lot of movies in IMAX in those days. So they were looking to find ways to create content for IMAX to show on their screen so people could come in and see something different. They thought computer animation would be interesting because it blew up nicely to the larger screen, and it could hold up to the imagery that was on the giant screens over there. So that's one of the reasons why Mainframe was attractive in that sense.
And it was the same for us. We were having trouble getting into studios to get a feature done. And we looked and said, well, IMAX haven't got anything.
Right.
Yeah.
And if we do IMAX, because people are going, you're just television. And
that's right. We were desperate.
I have to press two things and it's the resolution of film.
Yeah.
Press two buttons. And we went, well, but IMAX is actually looking for stuff, and we can do IMAX easy, and we can do stereo easy because we can do two eye positions and get the stereo right. Mm. They said, are you interested in the motion rides?
Yeah, that's right,
like,
the motion rides.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what it was. Yep. There you go.
And we did 2 motion rides for them.
And again, it was another step for us to try and get into film.
Yeah.
Yeah, like rendering at higher res, better models, to film, plotting to film. And they had this ride platform that they'd done a bunch of rides for, which were really good. It was a really good platform. So we started talking about doing a ReBoot ride.
So IMAX Ride Film Center Corporation building was in this little town called Lee, Massachusetts.
Me and Scott Spears went up to IMAX's home base. We have to climb up into the flight simulator on a ladder, and it's completely open to the elements in what looks like a farmyard with a barn on one side and cables coming out and going into the barn. That's where they had the equipment set up.
And they had this guy whose job was to program it along with the motion of the film we were doing. And this ride film base was insane. It was like ex-military technology. It could pull up to, I don't know how many Gs. It could snap your neck, basically.
The rides that we did had to be certified by the Federal Aviation Authority to make sure that they were within tolerances to avoid like heart attacks and death and stuff. And then the screen in front of us, so they had a baby IMAX screen that had the ride being projected on it. And we had to sit on what were effectively like lawn chairs, but they fitted them with kind of seatbelt arrangements because this is pre-certification. So this was pulling accelerations that were definitely not federal, FAA approved. And we climb up there, we get on, we watch it. Both of us were like, yeah, that's great. Is it going to be like that when it's done? Have you finished yet? They're going, I've still got some stuff to still do. And then they said, afterwards, they said, you don't have any of these problems, hopefully. You don't suffer. You're not epileptic, are you? I'm like, yes. Because I was at the time. I was taking medication for it. And they said, you don't have any neck injury or anything, do you? I said, yes. I have 3 degenerate vertebrae. And they're like, okay, let's not talk about this.
And there was a small group set up, and they were the IMAX team, and that's what they were just focused on, was doing the ride. Scott Spears headed that up. I remember the team motto was that they were a team. There was no I in IMAX.
My name is Keith Yoshi Arima, and went by Yoshimo because of Spanky making my email at that time. And I was hired as a senior modeler on the first ride film. When I got to meet everybody, they were having a wrap party. So they said, this would be a good way for you to meet everybody. So it was like my second day at work, or maybe my first day at work. It's like, oh, I'm meeting all these people. And I'm starting to meet the IMAX crew one by one. And I'm shaking their hands. It's like, oh, this is so-and-so. Michael's introducing me. He's like, oh, yeah, he used to work at Sony ImageWorks, and so-and-so worked at this place. Imposter syndrome's coming in, and it's like, I don't know as much as these guys. Oh my God, I'm gonna look like the fool. I'm gonna model something, and it's like, oh, is that your best modeling or whatever? Is that how you do it? So I was so scared at the beginning that it wasn't gonna live up to the expectation. I was building this Go-Sub model. It was like a taxi cab on water. And there was a pipe that had to go into the side, or the mirror had to go into the side. And so I asked Jeff Keppelman, another modeler there, and I just said, can I just ask you a question? Is it okay if I stick the mirror into the car and just leave it like that? He said, oh, yeah, you can do that. Oh, I can stick things into things and not have to clean up the inside. It's like, oh, okay. Then my imposter syndrome was coming down, because then I would get approval on the models. And I was just like, hey, nice work. This is really good. Megabytes Chopper was the most hilarious thing in a good way. When the drawing came down originally, and I didn't know who Brendan McCarthy was, and then later on, everybody's just like, dude, he's the guy who acted Judge Dredd. And I was like, no, he's the English dude that comes down, has good sarcastic comments. He says, hey, mate, how's it going? And all that. It's like, yeah, he's just that dude over there. Oh, he's the guy that drew oh, yeah, you're the guy that drew Megabytes Chopper. Okay, yeah, that's cool. Yeah, nice to meet you. Well, then I start building it, and then when I built it, that's the first pass, and you send it up for Ian and them to look at it. So Adria, Ian's assistant, comes down near the end of the day or whatever, and she says, Yoshimo, he says, I have this list for you. These are just the changes on it. And I was just like, can you change this? Can you change this? Can you just... So you do the changes and you make it. And then when you look at it, you're able to see it from that third point perspective that they're seeing. And it's like, yeah, that's a good idea. Like, that's really good. Before I left the previous company doing commercials, I had worked on a Wilson golf ball commercial. And that golf ball commercial, they said, we got these scientists, and they're saying that this Wilson golf ball is genetically engineered to have higher flight and all that, so we just want a bunch of whipping by here. I was in heaven. because I love doing that. Da, 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 da. So after making the models, we're talking about, oh, you need, the ride film needs like a website thing up top. It's got all these displays around there. And I was asked, is like, do I want to work on that? I would love to work on it. So some of the screens just pop up just for like a second, right? Virus detected, there's this megabyte thing whipping around, all that. But I spent so much time on that thing because I loved it. I remember watching Terminator and then all this stuff going on. I would love to do that, I would love to do that. I'm now doing this. And they had called it Googleophonics for ReBoot. So I was like, Googleophonics, oh, I like that. Yeah, or you can call it Googs or whatever. It's like, oh, but the industry calls it GAC. And it's like, oh no, but the proper name is playback. And I was like, playback? No, Googleophonics is what I work on. And I'm gonna put that on my resume that I did Googleophonics.
Thank you for taking part in this demonstration of the Maxine search engine.
What we did was essentially a 4-minute camera move, but everything we did would be translated into real physical motion. And we had come from television, right? And doing like cuts and crazy camera moves and everything super fast, right? And we had to be very, very careful and intentional with all the camera motion.
There might be like a couple of huge drops in the ride. And we just animate it like so it feels good. Then you find out that's just like gut-wrenchingly like horrible as actually on the base.
First of all, we had to figure out how to render on the curved screen to make that look right.
We set up a screen just down behind Granville in a separate studio. So we actually had the curved screen, so we could project film onto it and see how it was going to look.
We would do tests, print them to film, take them down there, load them up in this insane projector, which was terrifying because it was loud. And if you had to change the bulb, you needed a bulletproof vest because if the bulb exploded and the glass shards went inside you, they couldn't find them because of how thin they were.
And then Scott or Mike Easton would have to fly to Boston to actually ride it.
They ran whatever early versions of the ride film we had, and we rode this thing and just felt ill over and over and over because it would be out of sync. Things wouldn't be right.
We were all held back before because of production time on the show to not really go crazy with details and the amount of characters and such. So to work on something like the IMAX ride where they need an insane amount of detail, stuff everywhere. And it was exciting just to see the city built out and just a beautiful lighting, higher detail and everything.
I got to redesign Bodway, and that was super fun. So taking Brendan's original designs for the main street of Mainframe and like amp it up for IMAX, build up all of that stuff and really push the envelope. And that was one of the most fun things I got to do.
So I set up a whole bunch of those shots and built the models and yeah, was pretty heavily involved with it. I love that like Blade Runner-esque. I was referencing a lot of Blade Runner cityscapes when I built that. Dot as the Blade Runner geisha sort of in the background. Yeah.
There was some software things that our guys wrote for it as well. Volumetric rendering was one of the things they did for the glows. There's a section where the ride drops down into a subterranean landscape, and there's like lights, big glowing lights and stuff. They had to write a renderer addition to be able to do that, and it was super effective. It took a long while to render, but it looked great. And there was the pre-show stuff as well, where Maxine was introducing folks who were coming onto the show, so they would screen this to say, "Hi, I'm Maxine, and I'll take you on this ride."
I am Maxine, the most advanced net search engine available today. We'll get you where you want to be before you even realized you wanted to go there. Using our powerful Smart Search browse boosters, we learn from you as you surf the net. Way beyond browsing, and with the ability to interact with a multitude of systems, your power will become limitless. We are Maxine, and we know exactly where you want to go.
But there was a hallway you walked through, and there were monitors, and you'd see what was going on, and that introduced what it was you were doing. I don't get a credit for that one. And that's not because of the Canadian government. It's because the team asked me what I wanted to be credited as. And I said, I don't know, just credit me as whatever seems to make the most sense. So I got credited with nothing.
Total net domination.
I remember doing the poster. I worked a lot on that poster. We thought that if the poster didn't get you excited about what you were watching, like nobody's going to watch it. I laid out the posters and the CG guys made the characters to match those. So we would do posters for all the shows. It was one sheet. So we would go out to a TV show when we were trying to sell the show at conventions to other networks. So we would always create these very exciting posters. But that one was the only one that we had done that was, everything was dark. If you look at all our posters, it's dark. It's got black background or dark red or War Planet, which was one of my favorites. But the IMAX ReBoot Ride poster was the one that was really very light in color. You know, a lot of shiny metallics, Brave New World kind of stuff. I think one of the prettiest ones that we did.
Yeah, we did that ride, and then later we did another ride. I never got to ride either of them.
Ladies and gentlemen, binomes and sprites, welcome to the Viral Research Labs, where today you'll be given an incredible opportunity, the chance to journey into the mind of the virus, hexadecimal.
Now ride 2 was that energy of, here's this sandbox. I would read the script, and it was like, okay, I want to do the Googlophonics at some point. That'd be awesome. And then there was the other part where it's like, oh, it's a launch point where the ride vehicle gets sent off from this launch point. Scott comes in with this drawing. It needs to be about this shape, bit of a rectangle at the back so we could start here, but it has the options over here. So it's just really loose. I was like, I can do that. I can do it. So I started sketching different ideas how the spaceport could be, and then I would show him drawings, and I was like, okay, what do you think about that? He says, oh, that's cool, that's cool. Okay, now can you work on the ride unit that everybody's gonna be in that's gonna hang on this rail and all that? I could do that. Okay, start sketching, sketch. Finish those, and it's like, oh, what's the next section you want me to work on? And he said, can you work on the nursery? And then I said, okay, I'll work on the nursery. And then it's like, what do you want? Just think of hexadecimal as a baby. There's gonna be a bunch of them, and just kind of think how, I just want you to play around with whatever you think it's gonna be. Hexadecimal as a baby? Okay, I'll show you what hexadecimal as a baby is. Okay, this is awesome.
We appear to be in the early stages of our infantile consciousness.
I didn't do the hexadecimal ride, but I liked the megabyte one. I thought I was going to die.
On the ride?
Yeah, it's when it jumps off the thing, it's like, because they had to, depending where the rides were, if they were up in an upper level of a building, they had to tone it down, otherwise it would go through the floor. So I got it on full force.
Right.
So, and it was freaking scary.
Yeah.
The ride was being installed at Metrotown in Burnaby, and they sent over the test film for the ride, and the ride pulled itself out of the concrete floor. So they had to tone it down a bit. And it was on the second floor of the mall. So there was stuff underneath it, and it was bolted into the concrete, and it was pulling itself out.
That was one of those things where it was playing down the road at the Palladium, and it was like, oh yeah, I'll get to one of these days, I'll pop down there and ride it. And then the next thing you know is like, oh no, it's moved on, it's gone somewhere else. Now it's in Vegas. Oh, well, I'll go to Vegas. We'll go to Vegas on a trip and we'll ride it in Vegas. And I never did. So I was really sad that I never rode it.
A group of us were in Vegas. All the folks that had worked on that randomly were in Vegas for one of the animators' bachelor parties. And we were walking down the strip, and there's the ReBoot ride at one of the casinos. And so we all walked in and basically said, hey, we created this. Can we go on it? And they said, yeah, go on. In you go for free. And that was the first time we truly got to experience the ReBoot ride.
say we just get this hunk of junk back together and ready for another ride, huh?
Well, I loved IMAX, and the problem is when we had a Gulliver's script that we'd written, which would have been great for IMAX 3D, and then their stock tanked, and all deals were off.
All just went away.
They all just went away. Their stock went from, I don't know, $11 to 40 cents or something like that. And they weren't worried about productions at all then.
No. I think Ian looked at what we were doing for the ride film and said, this is what we need season 3 to look like. So it was taking a lot of what we were doing with lighting, making these better models, upraising everything, better textures, and to have the time to be able to look at, what could the quality really be for that season, I think was a luxury we did not have on season 1 and 2. It was just go, 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 right? And nobody had the time to make anything better. It was just whatever you could do while you were animating that shot. Now that we had more powerful machines, the software was better, what could we do to change the look of ReBoot? And then I think that became a lot of the baseline for the look of season 3.